Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about a report that came out. I believe this is from the Wall Street Journal initially, but it's kind of, started making its rounds all over the internet. I've been seeing it on Twitter. I've seen a few other outlets kind of pick it up and talk about it, right? So a lot of creators, especially and fans of the platform, have been kind of discussing this since this quote-unquote bombshell revelation kind of really hit the internet, but truth be told, I don't really think this is much of a revelation. I think this is more or less confirming something that a lot of us already knew, if that makes sense. Like, this was definitely something that a good portion of people already kind of suspected was a problem. I'm pretty sure in several YouTube videos I've kind of talked about this, or like kind of talked about this issue, maybe not really on as much of a direct scale as this report does, but I've definitely mentioned this on Twitter and in videos. I've seen other creators kind of come along and talk about it at different times as well. But essentially a new article/report came out from the Wall Street Journal that says that 80% of the ads YouTube showed in its ad system/Google showed in its ad system on YouTube were found to have violated their own advertising and platform TOS. Basically meaning that 80% of the ads reviewed on like YouTube in pretty much every way in some way violated the platform's rules and hypothetically should not have been shown on the platform for whatever reason it may be. Now keep in mind, this can mean that they were based on numerous things. Maybe the ads were overtly violent, or they were overtly sexual, or different things like that, right? There's a lot of different things that it could have kind of been hit for with the TOS issues, but there's actually like a real small technicality that's actually kind of like the real focus of that 80%. Now, like I said, people on the platform have been complaining about YouTube's ads breaking the rules for a long time. But of course, as we pointed out, as long as it makes money, that's kind of not really a problem to Google, right? Well, it's kind of the same thing with this issue too. Now, this New York Post article like kind of really sums it up here in these paragraphs pretty well on what specifically the issue is, because like if I tried to break it down to you, I probably wouldn't explain it as well. But Google violated its promised standards when placing video ads on other websites about 80% of the time, a dismal rate that raises questions about the search giant's transparency's online ad business, according to an explosive report. The new research from ad campaign analytics firm Analytics cites a lack of transparency in Google's proprietary TrueView platform, which offers viewers choice-based ads and services Google-owned YouTube plus millions of other third-party apps and websites use. TrueView asks users if they want to skip the video after 5 seconds. Google's policy states that TrueView ads will be played before site's main video content and will be skippable and audible. The service also promises that advertisers only pay for ads that aren't skipped and are played in full. However, Analytics claimed that Google violates these parameters 80% of the time, costing, quote, media buyers up to billions of digital ad dollars which were spent on small muted or auto-playing video ads, the report says. These ads were also played on sites that don't meet Google's standards for monetization, Analytics noted, citing Google touts a, quote, careful vetting system of approving, quote, high-quality Google video partners outside its YouTube platform that it seemingly doesn't abide by. Quote, this is an unacceptable breach of trust by YouTube, Joshua Lowcock, LOL, nice name, a global chief media officer at ad agency Worldwide, told the Wall Street Journal. So basically, to put it in layman's terms, those little like 5-second unskippable video ads that you usually end up skipping. Well, basically, in a lot of instances, like when they're played on other sites, Google is not supposed to basically charge the advertiser for that ad unless it's like played in full, like the person pays attention to the ad essentially. And so Google has been doing that regardless though. So even if people are like muting the ad or like skipping the ad, Google has been charging the advertiser, potentially basically costing billions of dollars to God knows how many advertisers over however long of a period. So Google is in some hot water because of this entire situation, right? And creators are pretty worried about it. I think that's pretty understandable. Right now, the worry that everyone, well, creators, I should say, that people are starting to have in the creator scene is, will this lead to another like YouTube adpocalypse where advertisers are like, man, fuck Google, they're screwing us over on this whole deal, right? Let's pull our ads from the platform, which obviously will mean less advertisements to serve on videos and on the site, and that will mean less money to creators like myself and many of you watching this video as well. So it's another one of these pretty big bombshell things. It seems like damn near every year, right, there's like some sort of major news story, right, against YouTube or Google where everyone's kind of worried like, oh shit, is this the new adpocalypse, right? Like, is this the one that's gonna kind of bring everything back down crashing, right? Where's my paycheck gonna be next month? Am I fucked, right? Like, I get it, man. I've lived through a couple adpocalypses on this platform now, right? Obviously, we've had, I think, pretty much like 2 or 3 really big, serious adpocalypse-esque events, right? And I definitely see the concern, right? I definitely see why people are worried, because it really would make sense for advertisers to fire back on this report by pulling their ads and everything, but it's been pretty much about a full day now since this all really started catching fire on Twitter and on other social medias, and there hasn't been any major announcements, at least that I've seen yet, from any sort of company or even YouTube themselves. Now, clearly, YouTube is going to try to fix this issue, right? Like, there's no way that Google and YouTube are just going to let this one slide, right? Even though it makes them money, you know, the cat's kind of already out of the bag, if that makes sense. So, they kind of break down a little bit more of the numbers in this article as well. That kind of really puts everything into perspective, like just how bad of a situation this really could be for advertisers. Now, keep in mind, right, this is not going to be every single advertiser. This is just kind of like them getting the numbers or whatnot based off of like the more extreme examples, you know, like the big companies, the Fortune 500 brands. But it kind of really puts things into perspective a little more. So, quote, Google must fix this and fully refund clients for any fraud and impressions that failed to meet Google's own policies, he added. For ad placements on third-party sites, brands typically pay $100 for every 1,000 completed views of their ad. They're charged a premium for more desirable ad placements, such as in the margins of a third-party site's landing page. For TrueView campaigns, Fortune 500 brands could spend upwards of $75,000, according to Analytics report. Google's corporate parent Alphabet doesn't disclose how much of the earnings come from Google Video Partners and TrueView. However, Google raked in $225 billion damn near in total ad revenue last year, according to Statista. Analytics also found that TrueView was primarily placing its customers' ads on these unqualified third-party sites that are home to, quote, clickbait content and misinformation rather than YouTube, which is usually more desirable to advertisers for its nearly 370 million monthly active users. Quote, for one Fortune 500 brand which spends tens of thousands of dollars on a particular TrueView skippable in-stream campaign, almost 90% of the campaign budget went to Google Video Partner mobile apps and websites. Only 10% of the TrueView campaign budget was delivered against YouTube channels, Analytics' report says. Analytics drew its conclusions by observing campaigns for more than 1,100 brands that recorded billions of ad impressions between 2020 and 2023. The company shared its findings with the journal. So that kind of, to me, solves a little bit of the confusion, right? Like, people are like, oh fuck, is this bringing a new YouTube adpocalypse, right? Well, this kind of points out that really only like 10% of these issues with the advertisement, I guess, are really only taking place on YouTube. 90% of this is like a mobile ad, third-party website kind of problem, right? Where, you know, mobile games and shit like that are having these problems. Now, that doesn't mean that this is like not a problem on YouTube, right? This doesn't mean that this is some sort of like, I guess, fix-all for the YouTube side of things. I mean, this could definitely still lead to negative consequences on the entire Google ad network. I think that's what people maybe don't really notice is YouTube doesn't have its own advertising service. YouTube is owned by Google, and it uses Google's overall ad network, which is this is all part of the same network. I mean, Google Ads is all the same thing. So this is almost like a different department, but even then it's still kind of bleeding into the YouTube scene, right? So I think that alone will prevent this from being a full-blown YouTube adpocalypse, right? I mean, it's just not a exclusively YouTube issue. However, it could be a pretty big deal for the overall Google ad network, which means that, you know, if all these companies started, I guess, like boycotting Google's ad network, for instance, over this, or whatever they would do in response, that would affect the entirety of Google products, which to an extent would also probably affect YouTube, but it wouldn't be this, like, hopefully at least, catastrophic, overarching destruction of all of your favorite YouTubers' income, right? So, who really knows, though? Like, I mean, you know how these companies are, though. That's the thing. Like, their marketing teams, they're not here to pick through the bones and see which one, you know, is the problem or whatever, right? They're not looking for a needle in a haystack if they can just take a flamethrower and burn the entire haystack down, you know? To them, they're losing money, potentially millions of dollars over time, right? And they're not just gonna stand idly by and be like, oh, well, we're just losing money, that's okay, right? Like, these companies are gonna do something, right? Now, I assume that they're gonna take up their issues with Google. Google will do what they feel is appropriate, which will almost certainly lead to maybe even some refunds funds and money, maybe they'll like figure out which companies or like which campaigns they kind of fucked up on and start fixing it that way. I'm assuming there'll be some like software changes or whatever, website changes. They're going to start fixing that to, you know, make it not a problem anymore here where people are getting charged for ads that aren't getting viewed fully. But like I said, it seems like this kind of issue comes along like once a year. Like once a year, we're on a new wave where it's like, oh, is this the new adpocalypse? Is this the time that I guess fucking YouTube finally comes crashing to the ground and we all don't make money off of it anymore? But thankfully, everything has continued to at least stay kind of upright. Like I said, this report's only been out for like a day, 2 days now at max. So like, it's still somewhat fresh information. That is a pretty quick amount of time for these big companies to respond to such an issue. But I mean, we'll definitely see some sort of response coming up, right? I assume that these companies will try and figure out whichever way is best for pretty much everybody involved to get this whole thing fixed. So anyway, with that being said, man, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @subtooptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, talking about this new potential YouTube adpocalypse or whatever, and signing out.